Thank you for joining me for another Quick Hits conversation. I'm Dr. Robyn. With me today, I have Hawkes, Atif Agha, and Enrique Acosta Gonzalez. The question I'd like to ask is, what is the right way to market or go about business when the world is in crisis? Atif, can you kick us off, please?
Yeah, so interesting question, especially when we are seeing Ukraine crisis and other things happening in the world. I think it's an interesting question. I think it comes down to what business do you have. If you're in a coffee business, you want to keep the upbeat and keep people not feeling down, and you go about marketing it by really being able to relevant to what's happening. You have to be mindful that there are people who families might be stuck there, and all around the world. So I think the best thing is to be mindful, to understand what the sentiments are in the society, and to be careful about it.
I think the simple answer to this question is very carefully. In that we need to be, because in my experience, and sensitive issues like this, where there are experiences going on that may be out of our understanding or out of our knowledge, because we obviously aren't there, or we aren't in the place or in the environment. And so therefore we could easily trample over something unawares. We might make a statement that finds us in a position where we've said something. I remember years ago, we were talking about, as our company, we make magic happen, only to discover that in Africa, magic has a whole different meaning. And so therefore we need to be careful. And so I think whilst we mustn't sort of slow down or become anxious about what we're doing, I think being careful and mindful is an important way of going forward.
Well, I definitely echo that. Business is in action because you want to make a profit, but you cannot let that profit over and trample people, because business is about people. And so when you're thinking about people, think about what the message will be and how they will receive it. Now, everybody has a different way of receiving messages, and you only can be but so mindful and so careful, right, in business. But for the majority, how does it resonate with their heart? And that's how I say, if in times of crisis, it is a heart issue. And so how are you speaking to those hearts that are in crisis with your product or with your business? That is what is going to make you successful when you start to market.
So I was having this conversation with a friend of mine, and he was saying that right after 9/11, which here in the United States is obviously a really big date, a week later, his boss wanted him to fly from the UK to Philadelphia to go on a sales trip. And he told his boss, they are in no position to have a salesperson come in. That's not going to be a thing. And I 100% agree with that. And I wonder now, because we're also connected so socially, is it tone deaf to continue marketing, even if you're marketing to people who aren't in a war zone, without at least acknowledging that there's crisis?
So another thing that's I think is really important to understand what your business core values are. You have to stick to that. But again, just like we're talking about, whatever the crises are happening in the world, there are always some crisis going on, right, in the world, and somebody's affected by that, whether it's a hurricane or it's a war or some other calamity that might be coming in. The key thing is to be sensitive about it, to be mindful, but stick to your core values. Businesses normally benefit better by not taking a political side if it's a political issue. But at the same time, what are you really delivering? Is this something of value to somebody who might be suffering? Then you can definitely should improve your marketing pitch and go and help those people out. So it really depends on what business you're in, and is it the right business to be selling at a time of crisis to the people who might be affected? It really depends on that. But I think the core values is the key thing.
There's another view to that, which is if you're in the arms business and trade's looking good, which it will be at the moment, then, is marketing inappropriate? If I'm, oh, look at our great guns and tanks here, we're doing a great deal, 10 for 4, and that sort of stuff. Well, buy one missile, get one free. That would be inappropriate, even though you're leaning into the marketplace you're in. I just want to go back. Enrique started something off that's in my head about the 3 Ps of profit. So when companies, you talk about their vision, their values, and the basis on which they operate. Now, most companies work on the basis of a profit. And I wonder where we are now in the world with the changes and what's going on, COVID and etc., is the 3 Ps of profit, people, profit, planet, should operate in equal importance within businesses. So therefore, the financial income of the business should be at the same importance as the people within it and how to support them, and the people without, and also the planet as well. So therefore, we're acting in a way that not only makes money, but also benefits the planet. I think if we operate with that mindset, then crisis can come after crisis. And it doesn't matter, because we have a, if you like, a mindset, a philosophy that functions.
Mm-hmm.
You also have to be conscious that you don't always have to market. You don't always have to say something. And just for the sake of marketing, you may cut yourself short when it's not appropriate. And so sometimes just holding your stuff back for a little bit while things brush over or things start to normalize as best they can, because you'll never have a normal. Europe won't be normal for a long time. We won't be normal because even those conflicts are happening over there. They're still impacting us as people. There's still something happening in our hearts, in our minds about the situation. So do you really need to say this at this time?
And how do you decide that? So I actually thought about that with quick hits. I was like, is it appropriate for me to continue to have these conversations on a regular basis without at least acknowledging that, hey, there is a war going on in the world? And that's part of what brought this subject to fore, is how do you decide if it's appropriate for you to continue on your normal marketing or conversations or whatever it is, if there's a crisis, and how big of a crisis it is?
Well, we've got our own lives to live, one. Two, I think, the world's a big place, although it's also a small place, but, geographically, it's huge. We can't all occupy the same spot. So therefore, we do need to carry on. I think if you have a direct impact on what's going on, or on other people, profit, planet, or the environment, then yeah, you have a consideration. But otherwise, there's no reason why. I don't think the reason why you couldn't continue to do what you're doing. And I'm reminded, I run an event every year. I remember the first time we ran it, as a few people turned up, we had a medical incident, and the whole event collapsed whilst we all turned up to this poor person lying on the floor and helped them out. All the events that were going on stopped because everyone helped. And as the event grew, we'd get more ill people and we'd have more illnesses, and they became just something that happened. We then got a first aid team in and they deal with it, blah, blah, blah. That comment that you made there makes me think of that as sort of like, oh, we've got this world. It's a first, isn't it? And maybe that's the issue. This is a first, and we're questioning our operating way of doing things, our modus operandi. And maybe you should be challenging yourself on why I'm asking that question rather than asking it.
It's the first in the social media era, I think, where we're getting, and we're all so connected. I have friends who know people on the ground, and I'm getting news like secondhand, which I've never had with any conflict previously.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I think my connection to it is very different than any crisis previously.
Yeah, but I think another thing that Enrique, I think you were mentioning about, you don't always have to try to market, right? And it comes down to your moral values as well as a business. Business always have this moral, every business has that moral sentiment, right? Are we really after profit, or people matter, how much they matter? And then it is a small world because we're all very connected, and it's not very forgiving either. So you can get a bad reputation by doing something maybe shallow as a business just to make profit at a time of crisis. So I think this is very important to be very careful, like we started the conversation with, and be mindful about it.
And be smart. Be smart about your marketing. Not everything has to be about your product. And I'll give you an example. Budweiser, hurricanes, all kinds of stuff happened over here on the safe side, and they converted to canning water. They canned water. And then they had the backdrop of the hurricane. And so they didn't lose business. They just kept it going. They just pivoted the message. We are in support of this. We're going to stop our normal standard practice. We're going to implement the one that continues to build revenue, but addresses the direct need of the people right now. And it was a win for them.
And that brings up the question of self-aggrandizing. I can't say it. and
Grandiose,
being like, oh, look at me doing this all great and wonderful stuff as marketing. And that is a whole separate conversation that's going to have to wait, because that is our 10 minutes. So thanks so much for having this conversation. I appreciate it greatly. And I look forward to speaking to each of you again very soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Robyn.